Okay. I believe that we are live at this point. I want to apologize to our viewers because we were having some tech issues. Unfortunately, I guess we had some errors there. Could someone confirm for me that we are now live? Maybe in just a moment because there is a bit of a delay. I'm looking at it over on the side of the screen there, but I'm just not seeing it here. Steve, just give me a thumbs up. You know what, ladies and gentlemen? You came for a cool show. We are going to give you a cool show. We sincerely apologize for the 12-minute delay. I am going to, even though we're starting off in a weird way, I'm going to run tonight's intro. So here we go. Here's the credits for the second episode of the FiERCE BRooD. This is for you, all of my former students. Thank you for tuning in. Here you go.
Well, it's very nice to be here. I've been asked to sing a verse and chorus of a little marching song of mine the boys adopted more or less during the war. I don't have to tell you I'm not much of a vocalist, but I'll do the best I can with it. So we'll just imagine for the moment we're back in 1917 and the orders from the front. Forward march, Doctor. Johnny, get your gun, get your gun, get your gun. Take it on the run, on the run, on the run. Hear them calling, you and me, every son of liberty. Hurry right away, don't delay, go today. Make your daddy glad to have had such a lad. And tell your sweetheart not to pine, to be proud her boys in line. Over there, send the word over there, that the Yanks are coming, the Yanks are coming, the drums coming everywhere. So prepare, say a prayer, send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there. Say a prayer, send the word to beware. We'll be over, we're coming over, and we won't come back till it's over there.
Okay, that actually went out live. I am so happy to be here. You wouldn't believe how much sweat is on my brow right now, but we got it to work, and I've learned a little something about how live streaming works. Good evening, my name is Matt Yancic. I'm the founder and head game master of Manufactured Myth and Legerdemain, and with me tonight are my very good buddies. We are going to present for your entertainment tonight a live play using Monty Cook's cipher system called the FiERCE BRooD, set in Boston of 1918. Each episode of the FiERCE BRooD coincides with the same month, roughly, that we're playing in right now. So if we're playing in September of 2020, then our story takes place in September of 2020. If we're playing in October of 2020, then our story takes place in October of 1918. I think I said 2020 before, but I meant to say back then. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. It seems that we have the tech issues temporarily conquered, though that who knows what we're going to encounter throughout the night. We hope you like our new format. That is part of the reason why we were having some tech issues earlier. But that's over. We're live streaming. We've got a lot of cool things planned for everyone tonight. And so I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce you to my friends who are playing tonight's characters. I thought we could start maybe over here with my good buddy Jared. Jared, do you want to say hello to our viewers and tell them a little bit about maybe your character?
Sure. Hello, I'm Jared. I am playing Thomas Brandon Dietrich. Usually goes by TBD. He is a graceful explorer who learns quickly. He was born and raised in New York. Got a job with Bear. When that sort of imploded, he's now in Boston looking for a new gig. And he's basically a field research scientist.
I like it. Thank you. I like everything about your character except for the conscientious objector status. As you may notice, Jared is wearing a New York cap in a Boston game. However, we still love him very much. Down here and to my left, well, my right, but I guess it's your left, is my other good buddy, Steve. Steve, can you tell us a little bit about your character for tonight?
Sure. My character is Ezekiel Brewster, goes by Z, and he was born to a Boston Brahmin family, and due to some circumstances, which I'm sure we're going to explore, ended up exiled from that family. And after some time in a foster home, he ended up in the seminary, where he's studying to be a priest at this time.
All right. Thank you very much. And I also want to thank you for the shamrock Irish green that you're wearing with the Boston theme. Coming up here on my left, but it's actually your right, is my other buddy, James. James, you want to tell us a little bit about your character for this evening?
Sure. I'm playing Vesper Evenwing, the Fuligen, who is a composer turned con man, a skeptical speaker, someone who is trying to make his way in the elite societies of Boston of the time and losing a mentor and running down on his luck trying to survive.
Nice. Thank you very much. And you know what? I'm trying to see what ball cap you're wearing.
This is the Arizona Coyotes NHL hockey team.
Okay, well, the judges will allow it for tonight's game since I don't have a player to swap in for someone with a...
I'm sorry, I can't wear a Bruins hat. It's just not going to happen.
No, not at all. Are you serious? Not at all. Well, I guess, okay. A Whalers cap. How would you feel about a Whalers cap? The Hartford Whalers, to those of you too young out there. Yes! Can I ask you, would you be willing to put on the Whalers cap for tonight?
Of course, I don't need a reason.
Oh, if you could, we would ever so love it. All right, even though there are no Whalers in 1918, in fact, there's no, as far as I know, there's no hockey league either. It is still in the New England spirit. Bringing up the rear here, to my left, but your right, we have Frank. Frank, can you tell us a little bit about your character for tonight?
Well, I'm playing Frank Murphy, and you'll notice a connection between the name because my character isn't all that intelligent. So in order to remember my own name, I had to use my own name. That said, I've got street smarts. I'm a large Irish son of South Boston, proudly wearing the colors of the Boston Red Sox, even though 2020 was a terrible season and we just as soon forget about it. Don't let me digress. I am a middle-aged guard, a night watchman at the rail yard, and it pays the bills. I'm an ex-policeman in my youth, was injured and have a terrible limp, but I like to earn some extra money on the side by getting stuff for people. So I am the scrounge of the group, and if you need something, you come and see me. Back
Excellent.
to you, Matt.
Thank you very much, Frank. And I say, I am very happy to see not just the Red Sox jersey, but the mask, which you are ready to pull up. So thank you all very much for tuning in. I do have to apologize. We are learning as we go. I had thought that the live stream chat was going to be enabled. It looks like it will not be. I would love to fiddle with that right now and see if I can get it going. But unfortunately, I am so nervous, so frightened, and so clumsy. I dare not touch a single key on my keyboard or on my system here. I do promise you that during the intermission, perhaps in about an hour to an hour and a half, I will do my best to see if I can get that enabled. I hope until then you'll be patient with us. You viewers at home, thank you once again for tuning in. At the very least, we intend to give you a great performance and a good story tonight. So let's recap very quickly, because I really want to jump into the game and get things going. In our last adventure, as I mentioned before, we started in Boston, Massachusetts, of 1918. On September 11th, the 6th game of the World Series. Frank was working as a patrol guard or as a watchman at the game. And we have over here Dietrich, who was actually there interviewing for a job position, a research position with Harvard University. The two of them bumped into each other. And at that time, when they bumped into each other, they had they got themselves involved in a little bit of a fracas in which Frank, as a watchman, had to step in and stop what was going on. While this was happening, mysteriously, 2 small stained glass orbs appeared in their pockets. And after kind of taking a look at them, they discovered that they had a message written on them, which was on one side, help, gate A, and on the other, what appeared to be some sort of rune or odd figure. Meanwhile, our 2 other heroes, Z, the priest, Ezekiel Brewster, to perhaps his family and friends, and Vesper Evenwing, Vesper, how would you describe yourself? I was going to describe you as a con man, but I know that you're a struggling musician / magician?
Bit of a magician, sure.
Bit of a magician?
But yeah, con man, musical composer, rather dirty and disheveled at this time.
Okay. Z and Vesper bumped into each other at the Boston Public Library, where they had a little bit of friction between the two of them, but then they kind of came to an understanding when they realized that they recognized each other. But they both sort of mutually agreed not to bring this up. As Vesper and Z were leaving the public library, Vesper decided to do something he shouldn't do, and he actually lifted a, what would it be called?
A book of a musical score.
A musical
Some
score
sheet music in a book.
From the library using some hedge magic, which not everyone is aware of, and Vesper himself may not be aware that it is actually magic. At that moment, when he used his hedge magic, 2 more stones, 2 more stained glass orbs appeared in their pockets. And when they brought their stones out, they discovered that, same as we saw with these 2 fellows, they contained on them what looked to be a message saying help at gate A, and on the other side, some sort of rune. When everyone rushed to gate A, which they deduced was gate A at Fenway Park during Game 6 of the World Series, everyone bumped into each other. There was a minor fracas going on. A crowd had gathered, and it was claimed that several people ran through a wall and then disappeared. The 4 of our heroes managed to intuit that putting together their orbs formed a map of Fenway Park, and it also somehow stopped time and space. They also intuited that it allowed them to pass through objects, including human beings and physical objects here in our own real space. And so our two sets of heroes put two and two together, and they passed through the wall. And that is where we left them as they fell through the wall. The four stones seemed to split, burn out, smoke and steam, as they entered some sort of dank, dark basement filled with piping and ductwork, only to look up and discover 5 figures: an older woman in a robe, another thinner gentleman beside her with oddly coarse skin, and a young boy who was holding something in his hand. These 3 figures were flanked by 2 other figures. One, a very handsome young gentleman wearing suspenders and trousers up to his waist. And on the other side, a gentleman in a hat with a monocle and a rather ill-fitting suit, who looked as if, well, he looked a little off. And as our 4 heroes fall to the ground with the stones between them, let's not forget Mars, Vesper's cat, shall we say, for lack of a better word, who casually strides along beside them, circling, looking up, leaning over to Vesper and purring. And with that, I'll allow you gentlemen to talk about your next step. Now, of course, this wouldn't really happen in real time, but I will give you a moment to sort of refresh each other's memories and talk about what you may or may not want to do at this point. So I open the floor to you.
Matt, do you remember the monologue you gave us from, I guess it was the handsome gentleman?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
He was a little taunting. You want to give us that again?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. So the very last thing that we closed on was the handsome gentleman leaning against a piece of heavy machinery, something almost unidentifiable. As he looked to the child, narrowed his eyes, and wagged a finger, tut-tut-tutting. And then, looking towards our 4 new heroes who've just emerged, he began to applaud as he welcomed them to wherever they happen to be at this moment. Thank you very much for that, Jerry. And without further ado, gentlemen, please discuss.
Not that there's... No. Go on, Z.
Mr. Watchman, is this some kind of sub-basement underneath the stadium? What is going on here?
Completely odd and indifferent. I've never seen this place before.
Yes, and actually you can tell, and you won't even have to make a roll, but yes, that is true. Frank, as you look around, it has the hallmarks of what may be some odd sub-basement somewhere in Fenway Park, but it doesn't quite look the same. It's a little off.
Well, I'm imagining that even the smells are a little bit different and not quite right. Everything here is wrong and just so foreign. So we fell onto the ground, and I'm going to just stand up and really make a play of my limp a little bit. I want to play that up because I don't know who these gentlemen and the lady in the back with the child, I don't know who they are, but I'm going to more or less try and impose my form between them and the 3 well-met but recently met folks behind me.
So as you stand, you do get that rather dank smell, which does not fit with the fact that Fenway Park was built just a few years ago. This doesn't make any sense to you. You've seen Fenway Park inside and out, top to bottom, And though it's not, it's lost a bit of its luster and its gloss. This doesn't quite look like any part of Fenway. Certainly no part of the basement that you've ever seen before. And as you get to your feet, there's a moment of just sheer silence. The gentleman, the handsome gentleman who is clapping, places his hands on the tops of his thighs and simply smiles. And when he smiles, he's got a twinkle in his eye, and there is a gleam to his teeth. You do, again, have a moment. If you'd like to discuss something, I'll allow you to do so.
I want to make sure I stand up and look all the way around. So I see everything behind us, around us, make sure where we are in relation to this room.
Okay, so taking a look around, I'm not even going to make a roll on this. The room just, it looks like you've got your back to the wall, and it looks like this is indeed the wall that you came through just a few moments ago. Now, here's the weird thing. You see almost shadows that are running and scurrying along the edges of the wall.
I'm in a meeting here.
You guys all okay? Anyone hurt?
No, but this was a bizarre experience. I feel something happened through that wall, and we've fallen deep into some basement, but I don't remember going down any stairs or anything like that.
No, I don't know where we're at, but it's on someplace I've never been before.
Do you think these people here are some kind of squatters of some kind? Should we talk to them?
I want to get this going. So I'm just kind of clapping hands and kind of smile at the guy. So, this isn't the beer line. Do you guys know where I can get a beer?
So the handsome-looking gentleman looks completely comfortable at this point, and he actually stands up from where he's leaning and starts to walk towards you. And his eyes narrow, and he's pointing at you now. And that finger that was
me specifically
tutting before is now pointing right at you. And he says, I know you. I have seen you around before. Are you perhaps... Oh, I do know who you are. Do you happen to know Dr. Farley?
Sure. I've met Dr. Farley.
Ah,
How do you know Dr. Farley?
I know I'm in good company then. It is a pleasure to meet you. And he bows for you, doing some elaborate footwork as he does so. He introduces himself as Harold Coatsworth the Third.
Does he have an accent?
He has, listening to him, he has a fakey highbrow Brahmin accent. It's a fine accent. He introduces himself as Harold Coatsworth the Third. And with a flourish of his hand, he snaps his fingers toward you, and there is suddenly a business card between them. And he holds it out for you to take.
I'll take it. All right, buddy. That's a good trick.
Taking a look at the
Speaking of tricks, I gotta. Did he actually magic this, or could I tell exactly how he just did this?
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna have our first roll of the night. So the way that Cipher system works.
I'm screwed up.
What? Yeah,
You
may have screwed up.
Wow.
The way that Cipher system works is that the game master assigns a task a difficulty level from 1 to 10. And that is multiplied by 3. And now that is what a player must roll on a 20-sided die in order to defeat or to be victorious. So, James, I'd like you to tell me a few things that might make this roll easier. So I have an idea in my head between 1 and 10 for what the task difficulty is. And it may be maybe 3. I might be giving you a hint. And you're able to
It's
lower
3.
that. You're able to, for the purposes of the first roll of the night and our viewers at home, I may have hinted at what the difficulty is.
Hope you're not listening to it like a podcast because he's revealed it.
I know, right? For those people listening in
Yeah.
on audio.
Well,
they're
let
not
me
gonna
tell
hear
you.
it. So how do you want to reduce it?
First, I do have edge in intellect. Does that affect this at all?
Yes. So again, the edge means that if you want to spend one, if you want to reduce the task difficulty by 1 level, what you can do is spend 3 intellect points, and instead of spending 3, if you have an edge, you only spend 2 because the edge eats up one of those 3.
See.
So we can reduce it. If it is being reduced, we could reduce it by 1.
No, I am going to instead rely upon my see-through tricks, lies, deceptions, and illusions skill.
Oh, okay. Just use it.
Yeah, I want to use that. Where does that put me?
That would, well, you know what? You can actually tell me how it works. What's the definition in the book? Oh, I caught you.
I didn't write that down.
Yeah.
And actually, this is a skill. I think it might have come out of my skeptical.
If it's a skill, it reduces the task by 1.
Good.
You can still spend points, and you could still use an object of some sort, an asset of some sort, in order to reduce it again.
Yes, I am trained in all actions that involve seeing through a trick, illusion, a rhetorical ruse, design, etc.
So trained
yes.
will reduce it by 1.
I'm just gonna go with that.
Okay.
Because I've got the experience. I feel pretty cocky. I'm not digging this guy's vibe.
And make your roll, but I'm not going to tell you what you have to beat.
Here we go. Oh, well, hopefully I just squeaked by with a 7.
You did. It is real magic.
Oh.
100%. You're sure.
All right. Yeah, as soon as that comes out, I scoff audibly, but then I realize what happened and I just clam up and I just stare at him.
He's not even paying attention to you. He simply withdraws his hand after Dietrich takes his card, and Dietrich turns it over. On one side, it says, "Watch and ward off evildoers." On the other side,
does it have an at the end anywhere?
It's got a little
hashtag
Facebook symbol.
Something.
It's got a Facebook symbol and an Instagram. And then on the other side, it very simply says, Harold Coatsworth III, Hunter Extraordinaire. And when you flip it over again, it actually says banned in Boston. And then you flip it over one more time, and it says Harold Coatsworth III, Hunter Extraordinaire. Then you flip it over, and it says watch and ward off evildoers one more time. So in other words, every time you flip it over, it says one or the other phrase.
That's pretty sweet.
So I have seen you around, have I not? I believe I've seen you. You are the possible new hire at Harvard, are you not?
I hope so. But that was sort of interrupted to come here.
So gentleman, then. Obviously a gentleman. And he looks back at the 3 figures who kind of remain where they are. But at this point, it's almost like a shadow is cast over them. And the young boy backs up toward the woman in the robe, and she puts a couple hands over him as if to protect him in a motherly fashion. But as her hands move out of the shadow and into the light, you can see that there's something amiss with them. They have that same odd texture that the thinner man to her right has. And when that happens, the man in the hat and the monocle steps over as if to step between Harold Coatsworth and yourselves and the group of them, as if to maybe protect them.
Where are the stones at this point? Are they shattered, or are they?
The stones are sitting on the ground between the four of you, kind of
They
smoldering.
separated?
They are separated, but they're kind of in the same general area. And as this happens, James, I'm not sure, or I'm sorry, Vesper, I'm not sure, but could you tell me? I thought I could see Mars kind of like taking interest in them and sniffing at them. And
No, I
So-
had knelt down and was stroking Mars' head, scritching the ears just to try and get a handle on things. Because, yeah, arriving in this strange place through this strange way to behold someone using real magic is throwing me a little bit. I've almost forgotten about the stones.
Mr. Coatsworth, did you ask for help? Did you send these stones?
I did not ask for help. And as he says this, his head turns and he gazes at the child. However, someone else may have called for help without our permission. And he suddenly doesn't look so handsome anymore as his face rests itself into an angry kind of look. But it's just brief and quick, and then it's back to his friendly self as he turns back to you. But please tell me, a priest, a scholar, a watchman, and a ne'er-do-well go into a bar. Why are you gentlemen here? What happens?
I stand and say, if we're at the bar, I believe someone asked for a beer already, but we're not there yet, are we?
He looked a little bit off at that, as if he doesn't quite know what to say. And then the man in the top hat, or in the hat and the monocle, steps forward, and he shuffles with a limp of his own, not unlike you, Watchman, not unlike you, Frank. And he looks from one of you to the other. Don't trust this man. My name is Leonard Cloudy. I represent an organization of some great importance. You may have heard of us. We are the Society for the Preservation of New England Antiquities. We are here to help these people. Please, if there's some way you might aid us, I suggest you do it now. Do not trust this man. And when he
you
says
being
this,
held prisoner.
and he says this, Mr. Coatsworth simply shakes his head and rolls his eyes. Lenny, please. And as soon as you, Dietrich, ask whether or not they're being held hostage, Leonard Cloudy steps forward, and he puffs himself up as if trying to make himself into more stronger than he really is. And he says, "We are not being held hostage, but we are in great danger. This man, you cannot trust him. If there is something you can do, I suggest that you do it now, before it is too late. Please."
Whoa. Do what? We're all friends here, right? We're all good.
We are not friends here. This man, you cannot trust him.
Pretty boy?
the man in the baker boy cap and the suspenders, known that calls himself Harold Coatsworth, smiles. I am pretty dandy, you might say. It is
Yeah.
true.
Now, which one of you folks was at Fenway just a few minutes ago?
So when you say that, recognition burns in Coatsworth's eyes. They almost turn red with laser-like ferocity. Sorry, anachronism. With hot coals in a train. Fenway. I had no idea we were casting as far as Fenway. And he turns to look at the child, and when this happens, the child steps behind the woman, and she shifts her hands behind herself to hide the child.
I raise my voice and say, enough of this. And I hold aloft my beringed right hand and I wave it towards Mr. Coatsworth the Third. And I start talking, and I start with a tale about the Eye of Horus as I try to enthrall him.
So, how is this going to work? You're trying to enthrall him. Are you doing this as an ability, as a skill?
Yes, this is an ability as an action, and while I'm talking, I can grab and keep another creature's attention as long as I do nothing but speak, take no actions, but he'll just try to defend himself over some period of time.
Okay, I want you to actually make a roll. Let's just see what happens. Now, if you want to use something to kind of weight things in your favor, you're able to do that at this point. You can choose from an asset. Of course, the ability itself is going to drop the difficulty. A skill and an asset can also do that.
Great. Yeah, I've got the one edge in my intellect. I'd like to apply effort.
Okay.
So
you've dropped it by 2, the task difficulty.
Yeah, I will also use my persuading skill to apply. And as I'm weaving this tale to try and make it sound that it's best for him to hear everyone out before escalating some kind of action.
Okay, go ahead and make your roll.
Lucky 7. I keep rolling up.
So as you speak, he slowly but surely starts to come onto your spell. Is there anything in particular you would like to act out at this point?
I pretty much need to keep talking. So while I'm doing that, I want to just be piercingly gazing into his eyes and say, we're all going to get nice and happy and figure out everything that's happening here, from what this boy might be casting and how far we may have come. And I'm going to keep talking and look to my compatriots with an air of continuation as I can keep blathering at this guy.
Slowly but surely, he begins to fall under your spell. He blinks a few times as if trying to ward off the effects, but he can't do it. He takes a step back, and he looks as if he's about to stumble, and he places his hand, locks it on the heavy machinery, whatever kind of machinery it may be, behind him. And as he does this, it's clear to everyone around that he is now somehow, for the moment at least, under your spell. So you are free to operate as you wish.
Mr. Cloudy, what were you saying before? What do you need from us?
He is now, you're bringing Cloudy back from a moment where he's actually watching what is going on between Vesper and Mr. Coatsworth. And he is almost ignoring what you say, and he leans inward. Are you, sir? And he's looking at you now, Vesper. Are you doing that? Is that something you can? He pulls a small notebook out of his coat pocket, and then he begins to take vigorous notes with a pencil that he pulls from another pocket. Is that you?
Don't be afraid with what I might be doing. Please talk to my friends. And I go back to Coatsworth.
He looks very fascinated with what you're doing, and it almost takes him a moment to sort of realize what you've just said, and then he turns back to Dietrich and says, "I'm sorry, sir. Did you say something? Or do you have this sort of do you have this ability that this gentleman has, or what?"
I do not.
You do not. What can you do?
Move around, I explore. That's what I do.
He waits for a moment as if anything else, or is that it?
No, that's it. That's all I've ever needed.
And he begins to kind of look at each one of you, and he starts to ask you what your abilities are. And it's kind of clear that he's sort of lost the plot at this point. He's more fascinated by what you gentlemen can do than he is with Dietrich's question. So if you want a clear answer from him, you're probably going to have to ask him again. We doing anything at this point, or?
Well, clearly I'm more interested with what's happening down at the other end of this room.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to sidestep Lenny.
Right.
Because he
Easily.
seems just wait. Yeah. And
Yep.
I'm going to just trundle towards the trio at the other end.
Yeah. So walking over to them, you step past, and as you walk, Frank, you can tell there's something about the soil that's different. You've traversed the basements of Fenway Park quite a few times in your time working as a watchman, if only out of curiosity. And as with each step that you take, there's something different about the ground that's not. It's not Fenway. You know the underground of Boston, and this is not like the underground of Boston. So
not right.
You and Dietrich step forward, and as you do so, the three figures take a step. Actually, two of the three figures, the older woman in the robe with her face shadowed and the boy, take a step backward. But the rather thin, gaunt man with the odd skin that was in our last episode covering it up now steps forward, and he almost puffs his chest up as if he's summoning as much bravery as he can. And he looks down at the two of you, and you realize someone that seemed an average normal height before is now taller, but you're not sure how. The eyes glow. They glow a red orange as they move from Dietrich to Frank.
All right, I feel a little bit of escalation here. I'm just going to make sure that I put my hands up in a sign that I've got nothing in my hands. It's okay. Whoa.
You hear a deep growl as the thing, whatever it is, humanoid, lowers itself and raises its own hands, but it raises them forward as if it were readying to attack, like a wrestler. And the two stand off for a moment while, what do you do, Dietrich?
I'm just gonna stay where I am and just kind of lean around the old man and just say, "Ma'am, if the boy really did bring us here, A, what kind of help do you need? And B, how do we get home?"
When you say if the old boy brought us here, or if the young boy brought us here, the and just to be clear, this is not an old man. This is a tall, gaunt figure whose age you
Tall,
can't
gaunt
quite
figure.
identify, but it has an odd kind of skin. Um, its head pivots quickly, and it looks at the young boy, and something passes between the two of them. And then there's a deep intake of breath, as if this is perhaps something that the taller gentleman has had to deal with before. And then he gives a wary look at the young
We
boy.
just want to know what's up. We don't know where we're at and why we're here, but we came here to help because that's what the message, and I look towards Dietrich, that's what the message said on the stones.
What it
The
said.
the woman who has remained silent until this point, and whose face is cloaked in darkness from her hood, looks forward, and she looks at both of you, and you hear in your heads, "We don't have time to explain. You need to help us. Please protect us." She looks down at the young
What?
boy. "He brought you here for a reason. We don't know exactly who you are, but you were the closest four who could help us. He brought you here for a reason. You've got to get him out of here. You've got to get him out." And her eyes dart over your shoulders, because now it seems clear that the younger, handsome man who introduced himself as Coatsworth is listening in on this. Vesper and Z, what are you two doing with Coatsworth III at this point? Are you still...
Coatsworth the third should be locked on with me.
He should be. He's looked up, but he's now back with you. So you feel something inside you that tells you he's quite strong, and you've got him, but you've got him just on the edge of your grip.
I quickly just blurt out, like, "Then who's Coatsworth? He'll be with you in a moment."
You're saying this directly
To the room. Anyone else that's talking.
when you say that. There's almost a it's like Coatsworth has been yanked on a fishhook backward, and his head bounces against the heavy machinery. You've still got him enthralled, but it might not be long before he's wrestled free.
Does no one respond to what I've interjected?
No one's responded at this point. Everyone seems kind of frozen and frightened.
Seems like things are getting a little out of control back behind Dietrich and
If
me.
he could call us here, how can he not get himself out? Or can we use a similar method to get out?
You hear that voice in your head. The boy is simply a messenger. He can send messages. You must have received messages. Is this true?
We did.
Stones?
Stones, correct.
Stones.
And combined, they brought us here.
That sounds like the boy. But he requires the help of others to pass over and pass through. And right now, his only safe haven is perhaps what you would call Boston.
That's where we're at, right?
She looks at the tall gentleman standing next to her, and the tall gentleman looks back at her, and the tall gentleman shakes his head as if to say, looks like we're going to have to explain a lot.
I'm going to take this opportunity to use. I have a skill called escaping / finding place to hide, and I'd like to use it to kind of get an idea of the rest of the surroundings of this room, to see if there are any other exits, any other, big objects that might, provide cover, that sort of thing.
Yeah, sure. Do you just spend points to use it, or is it? Did you say it was a skill, or?
It's a skill. It's a
Oh,
skill.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a trained skill. So.
Okay, so actually, just make me a d20 roll. I've got an idea in my head, and I will lower.
I think
by 1.
that's pretty good roll. 17.
What'd you roll? 17.
17.
Very good roll. Here's what you notice. There is an exit. But you notice something else very strange. Looking at the walls, you see those shadows that Dietrich saw before but now you can kind of tell that they're moving. They're moving very quickly all around you. And as you watch, they almost seem like, well, they're shadows, but they're almost silhouettes of people as they move all around. And looking up above you at the ceiling, you see what looks to be daylight that's quickly starting to cycle to evening. And you see shadows of people, you think, but you see them from below as if you were looking up through a pane of glass. And the shadows move, and they all file down in patterns, and they begin to leave and disperse as the light outside, if that is where the light is coming from, darkens. And the exit is right behind the three of them. But it's a door, a rather large door, that is closed and in shadow.
Then I will ask, is the exit you want out that door or somewhere else?
She shakes her head. The exit is not out that way. The exit is the same way that you came. And she looks down at the boy. Could you do that again? And he looks up at her. He nods.
All right, I'll go and collect our original 4 stones.
So heading
to
back,
present them.
You touch the 4 stones, but now they've turned into almost, they've got kind of a volcanic kind of look to them. They're no longer polished. They're no longer shiny and beautiful. You can still sort of make out the runes on them, but they've clearly changed. They're like coals that have been placed in a fire for a while, and they aren't dead, but they're not quite as, they're not new like they were before. So the young boy spots them, and his eyes kind of light up, and against the woman's wishes, because she tries to restrain him, he runs forward, and he runs to you, and he takes your hands with the stones together. He says, "These are my stones. I sent these to you."
Sure thing, kid. You can have them back.
So he takes them, and he runs back to the woman, whose face is still cloaked in darkness. And the woman just sort of shakes her head, and she kneels down. And when she kneels down, you get her face moves into the light. And at that point, you can see she's almost, well, to be frank, it's a little frightening. She looks almost skeletal. Her skin is withered, like desiccated, like a desiccated body, and it's got a kind of hard chitinous kind of look to it.
Are
And
you okay, lady?
she looks up at you, and when she looks, you can practically hear her eyes rolling in the sockets as she looks up at you and locks her gaze on you. I assure you, you hear in your head, I am okay. Please, we don't have much time. And she turns to the boy, and what you hear in your head, because she's communicating somehow and without using her mouth, you hear her ask him to get out the mortar and pestle and get out the satchel and take them out. And he quickly pulls them out, and he takes one of the stones, he grinds it down. He begins to grind it down into a kind of ash. And as he does this, she pulls from a satchel, she pulls out a little pouch, and he takes the ash and taps it into the pouch. And before he closes it up, though, he offers it to her. She takes it. With a pinch of her fingers, she pulls some of it out. And like snuff, like tobacco snuff, she inhales it. And when she does, her eyes glow. Or maybe it's your imagination, but her eyes glow red. And then she opens her eyes and she looks around. And she looks as if, for a moment, she's in another world. And she just says, the patterns are so beautiful. And then she blinks, and she's back. But again, she wasn't speaking. This was all just happening in your head.
I'm making sure my mask is up and secure, because I'm going to say to Dietrich, this woman is some sort of ventriloquist, and I think she's got the sickness. We need to get out of here.
When you say the sickness, all three of them kind of look over at you, but then they ignore it and continue.
I'm not sure it's a sickness, but I agree. It's definitely time to go.
This
They
boy.
keep going to the next. They keep going. They're still working on what they're working on.
They're done, and they're kind of like, it looks like she's sort of saying goodbye to him. And the taller, gaunt gentleman or creature, whatever he happens to be, because he has the oddest skin, and now that you kind of have seen her skin, well, you're not really sure. Whatever worked her over has perhaps in the past worked him over. And he kind of gives the young boy a nod, and he's talking quietly to the boy as if to tell him things, perhaps wish him well, or to keep his spirits up.
So Vesper is busy chatting up Coatsworth. I'm going to look, what's Leonard up to, this Lenny guy?
Leonard is, whoops, forgot about a character. Leonard, this entire time, has been urging you on. Yes, you must do this. You must do that. You must take him over. I'm old. I'm tired. I cannot do this, but the four of you perhaps could take him back. We'll go back together. But we must go quickly. We must go as fast as we can.
Okay.
I don't know. How long can your friend keep Mr. Coatsworth this way?
I have no
Probably not
idea.
too much longer.
It's amazing what he's doing.
Vesper, how long can you use your ability?
You're on mute, dude.
Over multiple rounds.
Oh, over multiple rounds, which translates to about, well, how many? How many rounds is multiple?
1 minute.
Because I know, because like 1 minute is like almost stretching it.
Well, I'm sure I can't say.
Excellent.
Um, they take no actions other than to defend themselves, even over multiple rounds. If they are attacked, the effect ends.
Okay. We'll say that it's getting close at this point, and I'm
I
actually
mean,
going.
indefinitely, honestly.
Honestly, I think until the end of the universe. Do me a favor and let's see. Give me another D20 roll, because at this point I'm going to say that it's starting to cause you some strain.
A 10.
Okay, you are well within the bounds of holding this gentleman, at least for now.
No problem.
Okay. So at that point, Leonard Cloudy, looks at the four of you. Yes, if you're ready to go, we really must get
Let's
out of
go.
here.
Yeah, I mean,
We're waiting
we can
on
get
you
this
guys.
sorted out at the box office, if nothing else.
He kind of looks at you funny when you say that, as if he's about to tell you something, and then he's not going to do it. Then let us go the way that you came. And he pulls from his pocket a pocket watch. But this pocket watch is running somehow on a different time, because it looks like it's moving very quickly, as if his pocket watch is running much faster than what your own might be doing.
Holy cow.
And so with this, the older woman stands, and you can hear a small conversation take place between Cloudy and the older woman as she asks if the boy will be all right. And Cloudy assures her that he will do everything he can to ensure that the boy is safe and that these four help protect him. And she looks at the four of you as if she is not so certain. And then Cloudy looks up for a brief moment, and he looks at the taller gentleman, and his eyes burn with that red coal-like glow that you saw earlier in the woman, and now you're seeing in the taller gentleman. And he looks at the four of you, and he steps forward. He takes a moment to look at you, Vesper, leans in, sniffs as if he's sizing you up, leans over toward you, Frank, sizes you up with a few sniffs. He does the same to Dietrich, narrowing his eyes as he does so. And then he leans forward toward you, Z. You smell like a holy man to me.
What was that noise?
That was not me, I assure you.
Yeah? What of it? I am a holy man.
Take care of the boy, holy man.
How do we get out of here?
Why don't you come with us?
He looks and he gives you a dirty look, as if you shouldn't be asking questions. I will meet you in time again. I say again, take care of the boy, holy man. And then he leans backward to his full height, and now you can see that whatever he was before, he seems almost as if he's taller now. He looks back at the boy, and the boy is kind of brought forward by Leonard Cloudy. He looks at all of you, and Leonard hands you each the pouch. He holds it out to you, and he shrugs. You need to, you each need to.
Good. This is not my first time, and I'll reach in and grab it and do it.
Make an instantaneous D20 roll.
17, baby. First roll.
Everything around you begins to vibrate in the exact same way that things were vibrating before, when you originally placed the 4 stones together. And now you can see again.
But is everybody slow?
No, actually. Well, let me take that back. I was thinking before that we were back at the gate and that there weren't any witnesses around, but actually, yes, there are. Everyone around you is completely slow. No one is moving at all. Everyone seems frozen to you. And you have all the time in the world, as far as you can feel, to walk around and do anything you want. Everyone is just standing completely still, including Cloudy, who looks like he's kind of pulling the pouch of snuff back toward you, toward himself. If you want to just wait, you can wait. If you want to do something, you can do something.
Does his aspect change from our perspective?
From your perspective, he has just
disappeared.
No, he is actually with a snap. He just looks like he's standing there to you. But we'll get to you in just a moment, because we'll get to you. But for right now, TBD, you get the feeling you could just walk around right now. Do anything you want. And if you're not going to do anything, I'm just going to flip back to these guys. No pressure.
I will keep it simple. Mm-hmm. And I will go ahead and kind of walk around, I guess, to see the entire aspect of all the other people, the old lady, the bodyguard guy.
Yeah.
But I will keep my distance from Coatsworth.
Yes. So as you step around, you take a look at each member of this new party that you've just encountered. And the young boy just looks like a young boy. However, kneeling down and taking a close look at him, he seems to have there's something odd about his skin, but it is not so severe as that which has happened to the woman and the taller creature/gentleman, who you also inspect. And taking a look, you see odd similarities in all of their skin. And then with that, the taller gentleman, who seems to be, well, maybe now he's approaching 7 feet, because it seems like every time you look at him, he's taller, steps right up to you. And he leans over. You need to be on your way, Harvard boy. I can play
waiting
this
on
game
the rest of them
too.
I'm just waiting on the rest of them.
Okay, so snapping back to reality, the three of you just watch as Dietrich sniffs into both nostrils, and there's a moment where he suddenly just blurs, and he zips around the room incredibly fast, leaving almost a thunderclap in his wake. And then the same thing actually happens with the 7-foot-tall gentleman, who both now freeze, and you hear what sounds like a voice on fast forward. What are you three doing at this point? Are you going to... And now Cloudy is holding out the satchel or the pouch.
Where's the kid?
The kid is right there next to him, kind of ready to go.
All right.
I'll reach in and grab some stuff and huff it up.
Boom. Same thing
Going
actually
streaky.
happens at this point. And you see the streak, not to be confused with the streak.
Son, are you going to take some of that stuff?
So Cloudy looks down at him. Well, if I'm with you, he said, you can all take me there as long as we're in physical contact. And he reaches out and he holds your hand.
How big is he?
He looks like he's 9-10 years old, so that puts him somewhere in like 4th, 5th grade.
All right. All right. We're going to head back to the concourse, and I'll reach out and I'll take some of the, is it a powder?
It's like a powdery ash. Boom. Same thing happens, and everybody sees him zip around, except for Z and Dietrich and the 7-foot-tall creature, who are now just looking at you as if you're in real time. So that just leaves you. It leaves poor Vesper, who's still holding Mr. Coatsworth enthralled.
I will tell him.
Coatsworth is just staring at you, and he looks angry now, but he's not doing anything.
Yeah. I'll tell him. I realize that as soon as I reach for this powder, I'm going to kind of lose this connection. So I tell him, I'll be going now. Mars will meet me there. And so as the sun sets in the east and rises in the west,
He looks increasingly angry.
we'll meet again like a memory. And I reach for it and take a big snort.
Boom! You just flash very instantly, and now you're seeing exactly what's happened to everybody else in the room. And actually, Cloudy is in all of this. The 7-foot-tall creature is in all of this. And everyone's kind of frozen. And at that point, it looks like Mr. Coatsworth was just trying to step forward as if to come at you. But everyone is frozen that has not taken this powder at this point.
Let's go, let's go.
So as you take hold of the boy, he reaches out to you, Frank, and he says, "Is this the first time you've gone through a wall?" And he says,
You're on mute again, Frank.
Just did it a little bit earlier today, so shouldn't be a big thing.
He looks at Cloudy. Wait, are you? It's your second? It's only your second time going through a wall?
Yeah.
He doesn't look. He reaches out to whoever is near him and grabs onto someone else. Who's next to him?
I'll take him.
Okay, so he's grabbed. So you've got him, and he doesn't look so happy. And he looks up at Cloudy, and Cloudy's like, "It'll be okay. It'll be okay." And Cloudy puts his hand on the boy's shoulder, and he actually like kind of looks at the two of you, and then he's like, maybe you understand. You fellows could help us out perhaps as well if you would put a hand on the boy, maybe to help us.
Yeah, everyone gather around. Let's go.
Absolutely.
So you place.
Yeah, and just so you know, where I was hesitant going to the wall from Fenway, I'm kind of anxious to get back. So I'm gonna, if my hand's with the boy in this group, I'm just gonna start walking into it, thinking that it's just going to let me walk through it.
Yeah. So with that, the four of you with Cloudy kind of using the boy almost as the tip of the spear, because he seems very casual and easygoing about this. You all step forward and you begin to slip straight through the wall. And you can feel that kaleidoscopic kind of experience one more time as everything around you begins to bend and curve. And then you realize that it's not everything around you, but it's actually you, yourself, that are bending and curving. And you get this sensation of traveling at this incredible speed, speeds you've never traveled before, as light prisms all around you swirling. Every color of the rainbow is brought out as you travel. And the sound is almost deafening as there is a thunderclap as you suddenly find yourselves thrown down onto the ground, onto the hard, cold, dirty surface of concrete. But this time, there's no one around you. Fenway Park seems empty. It's dark. And you're not sure, but you think you actually hear crickets chirping. So, with that, let's take a break. We appear to have lost a player, but this is actually a really good time to take a break. I am going to try our fancy schmancy 10-minute countdown. For those of you that are listening at home, I'm going to put up a countdown so that you will know when we're back in 10 minutes. Thank you all for watching. When we come out on the other side, we will run the second half of tonight's adventure. So I will see you all in 10 minutes. Thank you for watching. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. We are back. So, we are very happy because we managed to get our player back. We have filled him in on all the pertinent details. And when we last left our heroes, they had just made it back through the wall, dropping... Oh my goodness, we lost him again. They had just made it through the wall.
He's
dropping
stuck in
to
the
ground.
wall.
Yeah,
No!
maybe. I think that
splinched.
Steve is actually stuck in the wall. Hopefully, he will not be wrestling with his internet. He has failed his role. I would like to make a GM intrusion at this point and pull him through, but unfortunately, it doesn't work so well for internet connections.
Yeah.
But at any rate, when we last left our heroes, they had just made it through the wall, fallen onto the ground on hands and knees, with... I'm almost scared to flip us over to the other view now because I feel like Steve might drop out again, but we'll do it. So at this point, as you look around, it is nighttime. Crickets are chirping.
This doesn't feel right.
Frank, you know that you are in Fenway Park. It
Yeah,
smells right, but it smells like 2 or 3 in the morning.
We're back in the concourse. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't feel right. It's
I'm gonna
dark.
take up my watch and see what time it is.
Looking at your watch, it looks like there has been no interruption in service. It looks like the few minutes, perhaps the 30 minutes that you were in that room passed, and it still says, according to that, you should be in the 4th or 5th inning at this point. There's no real difference in your time. So, as this is happening, Leonard Cloudy stands and he adjusts his hat. His monocle has popped out of his eye and he's placing it back in there as he looks at each of you, but then his eyes go right to the boy who he helps to his feet. And he asks him some questions about how he's doing and whether he's all right, and the boy actually seems like he's fine. He brushes himself off as if this is the sort of thing that he does every day.
Can Coatsworth follow us? Does he have the same powder?
So Coatsworth has not, at this point, followed you. But have you said this out loud? Or
I've said this out loud to them. Nope, said it out loud.
So, Cloudy looks at you. He does have the ability to do something like this, and that's why we need to get going right now.
I'm adjusting my coat and dusting it off, and I'm rather unnerved, and definitely second that. Yes, we cannot dwell in an area that he may appear in. He is very dangerous.
Frank, you got a place for us to go?
Yeah,
Cloudy.
we can
Cloudy looks
get
at
out
you.
of
No, our job is not done yet. There's more to do. And he looks at the boy. Where is the first location? And the boy looks up. And he closes his eyes. And as he closes his eyes, this kind of like peace comes over him. The first place is Singleton. Singleton Square, he says.
Does that ring a bell?
Go ahead and make an intellect roll.
A 13. I have a 17 in. What am I looking for?
Yes, it does. He says Singleton Square, But Singleton Square could not mean John Singleton Copley Square, otherwise known as Copley Square. Just a few minutes from the Boston Public Library where you were earlier on. The boy calls it Singleton Square. You know it as Copley Square.
What's there? We know this of a different name.
So the boy looks up at you and he says, the head is there. The first head is there. Don't worry about it. Let's get going, okay? And he starts to sort of march out as if he does know the area. And as he's marching out, he's looking around and saying, this is a lot different than what I saw over there. And this is strange. And he keeps going. Mr. Cloudy looks at the four of you and just sort of shrugs. Well, you heard the boy. And he starts to march off after the boy.
I'm gonna follow. I'm gonna walk right with him, and not really roughly, but firmly grab his arm like above his elbow as we're kind of leading along and following the boy. And
Cloudies
I'll just
or the boys?
Cloudies.
Okay.
And I'm gonna cut right to the chase. Like, you'll inform us what's going on right now. What does the boy seek, and where are we going?
Absolutely. I assure you, there's no trickery involved here. Not like what you saw with Mr. Coatsworth. I am an honest fellow. The boy is an honest fellow. I, after all, represent the Society for the Preservation of New England Antiquities. And when he says that, he hands you over a business card as he keeps marching along, if you're going to take it.
I'm doing the same detection that I did before.
Go ahead, and do you want to reduce the difficulty?
Yes, I do, because I'm suspicious if it seems like they're connected,
same.
or if this.
Can I roll history to learn more about that place?
Yeah, are you kind of following? Okay, so let me
Absolutely.
just sort of stop us right now. So, and to summarize, basically, the boy is sort of marched forward. And he's looking around right now, and he's saying things like, oh my gosh, this is a little different than what I was used to. This is a little, but I think I know where I'm at. And the Mr. Cloudy, at this point, is marching alongside the boy on a mission. Now, I assume you, Dietrich, are following, and I know that Vesper is following. How about Frank and Z? Are you following along with him, or are you kind of doing your own thing?
I'm following, but in so much as I'm kind of spooked as well. And we're heading right by the security office. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to veer off to that. It's a door on the outer wall of Fenway where we all checked in at the beginning of our shift. And I'm going to try that door.
Do you have a key, or is it?
No, it's always unlocked during a game. We check in here, we drop our stuff.
You try the door. It is locked.
Locked?
Looking in through the window there, it doesn't look like there are no lights on inside.
I'm going to try and force it a little bit. Nothing?
Well, I don't know. It depends on your role.
Well, I'm just forcing it with my hand. If I have to put a shoulder into this door, I will.
So I'm going to be really nice, and I'm thinking of a number. And
all right.
What I want you to do is tell me whether or not you want to apply any effort, whether you want to apply a skill or an ability, whether you have an asset.
Well, it's not a defense task, so I don't have a skill that I can leverage towards this, but I am going to use some effort.
Sure.
Because I'm almost a little panicked. It's dark. This is locked. This doesn't make any sense. So I am going to just apply the effort and just try and put a little shoulder into this bloody door. Now, this doesn't make any sense.
I'm going to remind the viewers at home, as well as my player, that you can also use an asset. And an asset is a physical object, some sort of thing that might make it easier For example, I'm not trying to help you out too much, but in the interest of this, helping you out in the first few games, could be a pipe you find on the ground, a brick, or something, and that would reduce the difficulty.
I'd like to grab Vesper and use him, but I'm not quite there.
Ramp?
What have I done? And I'm busy.
Yeah. Okay. So
Well,
you're just gonna go for.
Let me just ask this: is there anything around that I can pick up? A trash can or a?
Yeah, looking around, there's all kinds of debris on the ground, and I'm just gonna say that there is a leftover stack of bricks from a small adjustment being made to one of the walls. You could pick up a brick and I don't know.
It's close. I'm gonna use a brick and I'm gonna smash it right around the
and make that roll.
I rolled a nat 20.
Oh no!
I thought that was a 1 look.
I know. That's what I was thinking too. Okay, so here's the deal. I think it's a really good time to. Yeah, right. That's right. The game is over. Whole campaign's over. You find the answer to every single problem on the other side of the door, and
amazing.
We're done. Thanks a lot.
I thought you were going to say Fenway collapses. One hit.
With a nat 20. Now, I'm going to show on to our viewers what happens with a nat 20. When you get a nat 1, there is a GM intrusion that doesn't actually gain any XP. On a natural 19, you get what's called a minor effect. And a minor effect could be something that you dictate. We are now at a point where we negotiate for your natural 20, which gives you actually a major effect. So I'm going to ask you, what sort of major effect? I have an idea in my head, but I'd like to give my player a chance. I'd like to give Frank a chance to choose what sort of major effect you would like to happen from this natural 20.
Well, as I was simply trying to force this door open, it seems to me like a nat 20, a major effect might be the entire door and frame coming off of the brickwork and then just collapsing inside of the security office.
That is a wonderful idea, Frank. But, I am a human being. I'm a game master, but I'm also a teacher. And the teacher inside of me wants to let you know that a natural 20, a major effect, can have more positive effects than that. It may be some sort of other thing that happens. It doesn't necessarily have to be the door collapsing. Because let's think about this for a moment. A door collapsing would cause damage to Fenway Park.
But I would feel super tough.
Okay.
PBD has no problem with this.
Never let it be said that this game master does not give his players what they want when they roll a major effect. So with that, tell us how the door blasts off of the hinges, Frank. Tell us.
Well, it's not only the door, it's the jam, it's the frame. The entire thing just shatters and dust comes across, and then the door moves in a good 6 inches and then just falls flat.
Knocking over the collection of pornographic magazines that a buddy of yours has been kind of peeking at in his free time.
Mac.
It's Mac, probably.
Always
causing a rumble that passes through the entire wall of the entrance to the gate. And actually with that, it knocks a switch that turns on the electrical lighting, a rather new feature in 1918 at that time, but nevertheless a feature. It lights up, and you see on the desktop before you that it appears several of the guards have not done their duties and left the logs out on the table. And this is actually what I mean by the benefits of a major effect. But if you're someone like Frank's character, you may want to just bang things. But just as I am a teacher at heart, I'm going to give him that. And there you are. You know this room. You've been in here. You've been stationed here a few times yourself. Put on duty here.
But there's no one in here.
There's no one in here right now.
This doesn't make any sense. The logs. I will look at the logs.
Taking a look at the logs, what you notice is that there's a big change in the logs that starts on September 11th, the day that the Yankees, or I'm sorry, I was looking at Dietrich's hat, the day that the Red Sox won the World Series. Flipping through the pages very quickly, you realize that quite a few days, in fact, almost a few weeks, have passed. And now, it's actually October 8th. According to the log. And Mac, who should be on duty tonight, is late. Looking at the last entry that was made only a few hours ago, if this is correct, one guard signed out and wrote, "Mac, late again, need to head out, wife pregnant, no time, Mac, I hate you, period."
This is weird. But before I leave the room, I want to check out the hook, the locker area. Is my overcoat, my fedora, is that still here?
Your items are not there.
I'm going to the lost and found.
Well, now hold on for just a moment. Let's cut back to Vesper and Dietrich, who were actually pursuing Leonard Cloudy and the boy. Have you done anything, because you've seen Frank split off, have you done anything to slow them down?
Yeah, definitely. So I probably may not have until I heard the crash.
Okay.
When the door fell, then I knew we need to calm down and wait. So, guys, let's give him a second.
Regroup here. Let me ask very quickly, just to make sure that everyone's included. Ezekiel, what are you up to here? Which group are you following? Are you following Frank, or are you going after?
I think I'm following. I believe I'm following Frank. I'm trying to get a bearing as to, what happened time-wise. Obviously we know some time passed, but then I'm just kind of taking a look at the stars and the sky, and just my surroundings, and see if I can make out like what happened in the game, or if there's anybody milling around or anything.
Looking around you, the first thing that you notice is that it seems cooler to you. Make an intellect roll to identify exactly, or not exactly, but generally what's going on around you. And if you want to apply any levels...
Yeah.
Everybody at home,
Just
I'm being
itchy
nice
today.
to them.
Just dry skin.
I'm being nice to them today. Just to, it's the beginning of the new system.
Yeah, I mean, I rolled a 3, so I don't think any level of application of levels is going to really change my ability to really see what's going on here. Yeah.
Thanks for playing. Here's a copy of our home game. Looking around, what you feel is that it's colder. It's unseasonably cold for September the 11th. And it just doesn't, the air doesn't strike you as being, it sounds odd to say this, but it doesn't strike you as being September air.
Yeah.
Feels late.
Or certainly the air that when we left earlier that day, right?
Yeah, there's something different, and it's not just the fact that it's late at night now. It's something about there's a chill to the air. You can almost see your breath, and that's about all you can get from this.
Mm.
Vesper and Dietrich. Why have we stopped? We need to go. We need to go. The boy is also insisting and kind of tugging at your hands at this point. We don't have a lot of time. We have to go before he shows up, please.
I know, but we're going to need all of us if he does come back. So just give us a minute. He'll catch up, and then we'll go.
Okay. All right. Is there anything you'd like to suss out from them or size them up for? Or
yeah, well, there was two things I was doing. Number one is I was using train geography to help the boy figure out where he's going, make sure we had the same kind of landmarks, and make sure that it really is that square that we're heading towards.
Okay.
And then number two is I want to do a history check on that society that he keeps dropping.
Right. So when he mentions the fact that this place is a little bit different but kind of feels the same, you want to figure out what it is he's referring to. So let's do this as two separate checks. So for the first one, let's we'll do like a basic geography check. So tell me what you want to know specifically.
I'm trying to I guess lead or egg the kid on with landmarks to make sure that we're going to that same Johnson Square.
Are you kind of like talking back and forth to him to sort of interact?
Yes.
Okay. And then what do you want to suss out? You want to know like where you're going, basically based on landmarks.
Yeah, if we're definitely going to the same square that I'm familiar with, and then maybe I can get him there a different way or a quicker way, or avoid people we don't want to avoid, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and tell me if you are trained in geography. Did you say that?
I'm trained in geography.
Okay. All right. And is there a particular asset or a level of effort you would like to expend?
I was going to do both. I was going to use level effort, and that's intellect, correct? Well, yeah. I'm gonna go. Let me see if I can go real crazy here.
Oh.
Since I used
be careful,
my 4 experience points, and I used it to buy an extra level of effort. Okay. So I'm going to use 2 levels of effort.
All right. So hold on for just a moment, everybody. Let me put up uses of experience points. So I didn't actually talk about this in our last game, but between games, what I did was I awarded everyone 4 experience points. Experience points can be used for any number of different things. You can use 1 point to re-roll. You could use 1 point to refuse a GM intrusion. You could use 2 if you want to purchase a short-term skill, and you could use 3 to buy a long-term benefit. For 4, you can actually buy an advancement. An advancement is a way that characters level up in the Cipher system. When you buy 4 advancements for 4 XP each, you advanced to the next tier. So what Jared is actually asking to do right now is to buy an advancement. So, Jared, after explaining all of that stuff to our viewers, I completely forgot what you wanted to buy. So can you tell me one more time? I'm sure they all remember, but can you tell
I wanted to buy an extra level of effort. So I can use 2 levels of effort.
Yes, I love it. Yes, you may do that. Go ahead and buy your level of effort. So now you can expend 2 levels of effort.
Okay.
And
I have the trained skill. Right. So that should be 3, but if not, I have an asset, which I haven't yet really discussed.
So then, in this particular case, when you reduce the difficulty rating to 0, and I'm not saying you have, except through hand signals, when you reduce it to 0, you do not even have to roll. And from talking to the boy, what you get out of him is that he's saying the right things, but everything's off by a little bit. He'll mention the name of a street, and it's kind of similar to what it would be called here in Boston, but he's calling it by a different name. He mentions a park, and it's very similar to what you would call it here in Boston, but it's a different name. And most interestingly of all, he's not referring to Boston as Boston. He keeps accidentally slipping up and calling it Tremontaine. Tremontaine. Over and over again. Sometimes, every so often, he calls it Boston. But he keeps calling it Tremontaine accidentally. And the feeling that you get is that he's referencing things from the past. He's referencing slightly different skewed views of what Boston is today in 1918 on what you think is September 11th, but may not be September 11th. It may actually be in October. So he's saying some of the right stuff, but it's just in a weird way.
Okay. But we seem to be on the same page, at least where he wants to go, and I know where he wants to go.
You know that he is talking about Copley Square.
Okay.
But he's calling it Singleton Square.
Is there anything along that route that I would want to try to avoid? Police station or any other problems that we'd want to avoid?
Looking at the
Can I find a good route?
He's going a direct route. He's taking a road which I've forgotten the name of, but he is taking the right route to get there. And he had mentioned a place. Here's what's most interesting. He wants to get to Singleton Square, but he wants to go to two other places that are kind of key here. Treemount, which you are not sure you get where that is, but then he also wants to get to a place called the Riot.
Okay.
Let's head back to Frank.
Real quick question.
Oh, yes.
Mechanically, does effort use pool?
Yes. When you expend effort, what you need to do is you need to draw from your pool. So if you expended 2 levels of effort just now, you need to take 6 points out of your intellect pool. Okay?
Okay.
So let's go back to Frank and Z.
So having busted into the security office and looked at the log, I am now rummaging around the room to find my stylish overcoat and my fedora so I can get out of this Fenway security cap, which isn't really my digs.
You had mentioned the lost and found earlier on, did you not?
Yeah. It's a wooden crate that we usually keep under the wooden bench.
I'm so sorry to tell you this, but there's nothing in the lost and found. Where else might your things be?
No, they're not in this room anywhere, as far as I can tell, right?
I don't know. You tell me. Did you have any systems worked out with Mac when you guys forgot things or needed to stash things, perhaps?
Usually you don't touch another man's things. You just leave them on the hook. But...
Well, you keep them hidden somewhere secret where no one's going to notice them so that man can come back and grab them.
Yeah, like where we keep those bottles every once in a while, right?
And the magazines.
All right. The magazines. There's actually a loose board over in the corner underneath the bench that you sit on to change your shoes. I can pry that little board out. We usually keep some odds and ends back there. Or that's often used as a trade-off spot because Mac needs things too, and I find things for him.
Guess what you find in there?
What's in there?
Your stuff with a note.
Let's read that note.
You open the note up, 2 words with a single exclamation point afterward. The first word is your. Second word is fired. And at the bottom of the note, there's a little sad face.
Is there a pencil? I look for a pencil.
Yeah, there is a pencil sitting on the
There's
desk
got to be a
nearby.
pencil in here. We write notes all the time. The
Yeah.
log pencil. I'll take that one. And I'm going to write on the note, use my wages to fix the door. And I'm going to leave that with the log. And I'm going to take off my hat and throw it and my shirt, and I'm going to put my own clothes back on. Good God. And I say that probably just as Z's. Sorry, Father Padre. Sorry.
What are you up to with that, Z?
No, it's okay, son. I understand. My apologies for you losing your job, but there's something far more bizarre going on. It's too cold. It's too cold, and time has passed.
I'm going to grab my CP and make it bounce a bit, but I'm also going to grab the security log and Z, look at this. This says that it's October, and that can't be the case, but it feels like October. It smells like October. There's nothing happening here. And I hand him the log.
I'll peruse it and think where were we? What happened to us? We've got to catch to answer some questions, and Leonard needs to answer some questions.
That's fair. Mac has no reason to lie. He can be a joker sometimes, and he might have done something like this on the log, but it just doesn't feel right. He left me an honest note. I think let's go.
And more importantly, did the Red Sox win the World Series?
There is a pennant hanging on the wall now that has 1918 on it. Yes, they did.
Maybe some copies of the Globe scattered around this room as well.
Yes, looking at the Globe, there are several copies that are kind of like tucked here and there. And yes, indeed, they did. Taking a look also at Through the Globe, you do not even have to roll for this. You can see that, steadily, there are, you pick a few of these, a few copies up. Time has indeed passed, at least according to the Globe. These are full issues. These are not faked. These appear to be full issues of the Boston Globe. It also shows that the war has progressed, but the headlines that really catch your eye are the ones that aren't blazing across the top concerning the war. They're the small ones that are tucked in the back pages. The ones that talk about the Spanish flu as it spreads and the numbers of dead which have risen here in the United States and around the world. But again, these articles and these headlines are all tucked into the back of the paper as if papers were being told not to place them in the headlines themselves. But that would be strange, because this is the United States in 1918. This is a free country, where the press is free, where reports are made freely and honestly, and this is the age of the muckraker. Upton Sinclair revealing the horrible work conditions. Ida Tarbell revealing awful conditions in which people are working. Why would these things be tucked into the back of the paper unless it were actually an alarming event? And that is what you take from the newspapers.
Frank,
I want to try and catch up on the Mutt and Jeff comics because it is a favorite of mine.
Flipping through it very quickly. You'll have to do the research on that, Frank. I'm so sorry. I don't have that in my binder filled with Boston facts.
Fair enough.
You get an experience point for stumping him.
You know what, Jared?
Yeah,
here's one thing I want to say to remind everybody.
Gotten any
you
ciphers.
do get to nominate each other for XP, and I like that. Do we want to give
cool.
Frank an XP for that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead. XP for Mutt and Jeff.
Sure.
Nice reference. Good research. So at this point, can I gather that you gentlemen have now joined Vesper and Dietrich, Cloudy, and the boy?
I think that's fair, and I'm very spooked by everything that's going on, and what I want to do is use one of my ciphers, and I don't know exactly mechanically how it would work, but
Okay.
it's probably more on the lines of like intuition. But it's basically the cipher is motion sensor.
Okay.
And it's almost works like a anachronism, but it's like a motion detecting camera. So basically for the next hour, if there's something like either skulking upon us or something that we catch out of the corner of our eye, that kind of thing, I'll have the ability to detect it.
So at this point, Z, if you want to use this, I'd like you to tell me how it is you came upon this item. Because I think it's fair to say at this point and to reveal the fact that life has not been exactly straightforward for you.
I guess I kind of look at it as a prayer bead type thing, like a rosary. Where it just maybe using like some kind of mystical sight or mystical ideas, but like opening my mind to just the God in the universe through prayer, and that's how it kind of just gives me this enhanced awareness. I don't think that I see it as like a utilitarian type thing, but it's more of an opening up of my senses and whatever, leaving things in God's hands to kind of show me the way of what's going on. And I think because of how spooked we are about this time displacement and everything else, that's where I'm able to channel it.
And so tell me, are you doing this in a way that is obvious for everyone to see, or is this secretly to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, no, I think obvious in the sense that I'm chanting prayers, but maybe not so obvious in what I'm expanding my mind to see.
Okay. So that is indeed what the others see as. Can I assume that you are returning and coming back around to Vesper and Dietrich at this point? Now, does this vision follow you wherever you go, or is it stationary?
Yeah, it basically is an enhanced sense of any time that there's some kind of motion or detection of anything unusual.
Okay. So you put this in place, and how does it look? Is it just a vision in your mind's eye, or is there a physical object?
Yeah, no, I think it's just a vision in my mind's eye.
Okay. I am aware of that now, and I will keep you abreast of any changes. So the four of you come back together at this point. And Vesper, it's been a while. What are you up to?
I had been trying to decipher if he's using the same actual magic to produce this business card, or if he is just a trickster.
Yeah, go right ahead and make.
Oh, it's a 1? Is that what we mean? That's what my number is?
Yeah, it may be.
I'm going to expend effort because I'm just very freaked out about this.
Yeah. Expending effort, you do not even have to roll. It is the same. The business card is out for you. Are you taking it?
I do, and as I snatch it from him, I inadvertently grip his arm a little harder than maybe I wish. I'm not very strong, but regardless, it's kind of like I
Not
belie my
necessary, my
maybe
friend.
cool exterior,
I assure you, I
and
am.
I read the
Friend.
card.
The card says Society for the
He
Preservation
chose.
of New England Antiquities. The name on the card is Leonard Cloudy, and it's spelled Klaudi. You flip it over to the other side, and it's blank. You flip it over back, it says the same thing. You flip it over one more time, expecting something fancy, and it's still blank. You flip it over one more time, and flip it.
I'm done after just a couple flips. That's fine.
Okay.
I do have to recall that Matt will just keep pushing that down there until you respond. So
You flip it again, and nothing happens.
oh, I'm surprised. Does the name of his society like ring any bells? Like I've been in, I know people in all kinds of things.
Make an
Does
intellect
this
roll.
exist?
Make an intellect roll.
Can I make a history roll?
Or history. Yeah, you can make it specifically. Like, do you have some sort of history skill?
I have history trained.
Well, let's have.
Am I doing this or?
Yeah, let's have Z do it.
Perfect.
Wait, Z?
I
Or
rolled a
I'm
3.
sorry. Let's have Vesper. You rolled a 3.
Yeah,
You
sure did.
Completely recognize the Society for the Preservation of New England Antiquities. They are, in your mind, the good guys. So, the Watch and Ward Society is a puritanical society that actually does its best to stomp out the artsy-fartsy stuff that
I am against
enriches
this.
people's lives. As a matter of fact, in 1882, one of the most famous cases was having Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass banned in Boston, which is where that name comes from. However, the Society for the Preservation of New England Antiquities works in almost the opposite fashion. It does its best to preserve and protect artistic, noteworthy locations, antiques, items, and oddities that represent New England, represent the people, and represent change and forward thinking, represent innovation. For example, your Hartford Whalers.
Correct.
So these fellows are the sorts of fellows that would absolutely positively be on your side.
I am automatically super into this group.
And you
I
have heard of them before.
Okay. I lessen my grip on that. And in that same vein, I remember that what Coatsworth
Yeah.
had that band in Boston group attached to him, and
Yep.
that's is that the same group as the Watch and Ward Society?
That
or this
is the
different?
Watch and Ward Society.
Okay. Is it like their tagline or something? Band in Boston?
Band in Boston is a phrase that arises from the fact that Boston has this kind of puritanical history to it. And as a matter of fact, you would probably know, now that we've kind of opened the floodgates, you would probably recall that a good portion of the members of the Watch and Ward Society were originally founded by the Boston Brahmins, priests.
Which group? I'm sorry, which?
The Watch and Ward Society.
Okay.
On the other hand, the more artsy members of the Boston Social Society formed the Society for the Preservation of New England Antiquities, which was to guard some of the very same things that were being banned by the Watch and Ward Society. And there is kind of this sort of war going on between the two.
Great. Yeah, I'm connecting directly with him.
Mhm.
Just say, like, I am very much aligned with your mission in this place, and I flap his card around.
He snaps his fingers. I've seen you before, have I?
Perhaps you have. Doing the work you do, you will certainly know of the people I would align myself with.
Have you been to the Symphony, man?
I have.
Ah,
Indeed, I am a
then
composer. I am
I.
aligned. That is my scene.
He leans forward. Your German friend.
I feel a little uncomfortable, and I inadvertently like look around to make sure no one's listening.
He looks around as well.
We need not speak of that. There's nothing to be done.
I understand.
But the symphony itself will be starting soon.
Just
But
know,
you see, and I
I
look
do
around.
support you. I do support you.
Well, that is good. And I look around. I say, obviously, time has passed. The foliage is perfect. It's the perfect time. You, being in New England, know this as well.
He looks sheepishly to the ground, and now I assume that the four of you have kind of all collected yourselves in a circle around him. And he explains that sometimes time passes in unpredictable ways when we are on the other side. And he looks down at the boy, and the boy just looks like completely impatient. He's like, we need to go. We need to get going. What are we doing right now? This doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand.
I scoop up Mars from the ground, secret him into my jacket as I turn aside, and then come back revealing that my hands are empty and the cat is gone. And
The boy is dazzled by this.
skewer a finger towards Frank. You've taken too long. Let's go.
We're on Boylston, right? I'm
We are.
feeling Boylston-y. Yep.
We are.
It's right up the street. We're headed to
Singleton,
if
I
my-
mean, Copley Square.
yeah, that's right up. It's right up here. We can make it there.
The
Lead on, man in black.
And then I will. I would like to say I will, but really, it's him. And he looks to the boy, and the boy's like, "Are we ready to go, everyone? Can we kind of can we go now?"
Yeah, let's go.
And the boy is off like a dart as soon as you say that, and he just starts running. Are you all going to just run after him? And
Yeah.
it looks like Cloudy himself is sort of limping off after him as quickly as he can. And as you make your way down the street, down Boylston, you head at a northeasternly kind of direction. You hear a thunderclap somewhere behind you. Perhaps at Gate A, perhaps at Fenway, perhaps some way
Fenway-ish?
southwest of you in Boston as you make your way through the dark streets. And now there are very few people that are out at this hour. And you do actually come across several clocks that are standing on the side of the street that tell you
Yeah.
that it's about 3:30 in the morning as you make your way through the cool fog of
We'll go
what
when
is
I want to reset
apparently
my watch.
October 8th. You quickly reset your watch, all four of you, along with Cloudy and the boy, keeping pace.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Vesper.
Are we still kind of in line of sight of that gate that we emerged from, or have we taken turns and
I can allow you, I mean, I can just say that before you lose sight of it, you can go ahead and check if you want to check something.
yeah, before like we slip around that next corner that the boy's leading, I hang
Yep.
back to the back of the party.
Yep.
And right before I turn that corner, I want to look back to where we exited from and see, having connected this thunderclap with what I expect to be there, if I see any figures back at that area.
Now, I'm going to remind you of something that we didn't talk about until this point, but you mentioned at the very end of our last game. you had turned on your eagle's eye.
Indeed, it's still active. I have a number
Cypher,
of hours.
you had quite a bit of time, and I'm going to say that you're just on the fringe of it.
I mean, only a month has passed, really, so.
Only a month, but in your time, well, a few weeks, but in your time, it's been just the edge of an hour. Just enough to make it dramatically interesting.
Very good.
Your eagle's eye shows you Gate A flash brightly in that kaleidoscopic kind of design that you saw so earlier. And then what you see is inexplicable. 2 or 3 shadows that dart and move very quickly. Humanoid, roughly in shape, as they emerge from the wall. And they move quickly. So quickly that you almost don't perceive them, were it not for the after effects of that ashen powder that you breathed in just a few minutes before.
I had been preparing with a plan, so as soon as I see this, I want to use my hedge magic to make sounds of heavy footsteps and like kicking a can across the street from the opposite direction.
Like from back toward the park?
Yeah, so if we're here, here's that entrance where we're seeing the shadows now.
Yeah.
Past that, just the other way.
Okay. So with a flick of your wrist, you do so. And what you notice immediately is a change or a movement in those 2 or 3 shadows, whatever they happen to be, as they dart off after that sound of a rattling can, which is what the other 3 members of our party hear.
And I slip back around the corner and catch up.
Is Mars, your cat, on the ground, or can you describe to us what happens?
He's away. I had put him away.
He just
I explained that a while ago.
Got it. All right. So the 4 of you with Cloudy and the young boy continue down Boylston Street as you head toward Copley Square, or Singleton Square, as the young boy and sometimes Cloudy are calling it. And as you approach, it's dark, deserted. There are a few shadows, silhouettes really, in an alley here or there. Some people warming themselves by fires lit deep in alleyways. It's not a good time to be out, even though you're not in a bad area. This is a good area. A good area. But this is Boston in 1918, and presumably in October, late October night. And sometimes things can come out of the shadows at you. There you see in the distance is Copley Square with its lit lanterns all around, highlighting features, trees, the grass, the lawn, statues. The boy is darting forward without a care. Cloudy is running right after him, and he's running out into the middle of, or he's about to enter Copley Square. Are you doing anything at this point?
Yeah, I was going to stay right up with the boy.
Staying alongside the boy, he seems, again, without a care, as he's sort of barreling forward into Copley Square.
I'm hanging back with Cloudy, as if 2 older guys with a limp can kind of hang together.
Okay, makes sense.
As I'm passing them,
yeah,
I turn as I'm passing. We're certainly being followed. Something came through back at the gate.
And I assume you're saying this to Frank and to Z.
Yeah.
Are you there as well? Ooh.
Yeah, I'm taking a look behind.
So taking a look behind Z, you don't really see very much, and you don't see what it is that Vesper insists he sees. Do you trust him and his judgment?
Vesper, what do you see? What is it that you saw coming through the gate?
Mere shadowy figures. They detached from that gate. But I tried to distract them. Perhaps they've gone in another direction, but I'm sure with what we've been through, anything looking to find us is sure to find our trail. I'll keep an eye out.
The boy is now crossing into Copley Square, so if ever at a moment he were exposing himself, now is that moment. So it's up to you, Dietrich, if you want him to continue out into the light and just out into Copley Square, revealing himself, or if you want to keep him back into the shadows, or do something else.
I'm actually gonna let him go, and allow him to continue to pace and not hold him back. But I'll just stay right there with him.
So he does continue out into the light, and when he makes it to Copley Square, which he refers to as Singleton Square, he starts looking around, and he looks and he identifies the Old South Church. He identifies Trinity Church, which is not too far off, and he identifies the Boston Public Library, and you, Z, and you, Vesper, in particular, though you had just seen him pointing before, when he points at the library, you suddenly realize that's where you came from earlier.
I'll just kind of ask him, what are we doing here? What are you looking for? And what's the purpose coming here?
Don't you remember? We're looking for the head. We're looking for the head of Mr. Childs. Or maybe it was Mrs. Childs. Oh, or maybe it was little Elizabeth. I don't remember, but we got to get their heads. And with that, Cloudy kind of looks at you embarrassedly. Well, it's not exactly their... Well, maybe it is their heads. It's not quite what it seems. Things aren't quite what they seem. But we appreciate your help. And he kneels down and he's talking with the boy now as if to help him kind of remember what he needs to do next.
I'm still nervous about what's coming after us, so I want to put myself in a place to watch down any common streets that would enter this square and milk the rest out of my eagle's eye that I can.
You have what you feel to be just moments left on Eagle's Eye, and you do, just looking around very quickly, almost without telling Frank or Z what you're doing, you just do a quick sort of rundown of the alleyways and corners and shadows in the area, and you run across Boylston and find an alley in which to hide yourself in a shadow where you just simply, almost supernaturally, disappear. But surely to Frank and Z, this is not supernatural. This is just simply you slipping into the shadows, unless you want it to be supernatural, which it could be. But
I'm mysterious, but
mysterious. It's more for dramatic effect. And you disappear without so much as an explanation to Frank or Z into those shadows. And looking down the road, you can see those shadows that popped out. There are 2, 3, you're not really sure, that are moving back and forth down Boylston. And they're moving at about the same speed as you were, maybe a little bit faster. And they're coming after. Well, I won't say that. They're coming in this direction, is what I will say.
Yeah, I'll just whisper to be heard to those in the square from my little spot. That how far away is that?
He's incoming.
I'm sorry, that's not what I whispered. How far away did I see the shadows?
It seems like they're coming block by block by block, and they're probably, I'm going to say, about a minute and a half out, based on the speed at which they're coming down the street.
All right. Then, yeah, I'm whispering out to whoever's closest, probably Z or Frank, I think. The shadows. What? The shadows are coming closer. In a few blocks' time, they'll reach the square.
And now at this point, it's fair to say that since Vesper has pointed them out to you, you can see that there are some odd shadows that are moving along the streets of Boylston, along the street of Boylston, approaching and getting closer and closer by the moment.
I'm going to pull out my Colt M1917 revolver.
Wow, which you just happened
it's almost new.
I had no idea.
It was procured from the docks and one of the military shipments. It's the gun that I am licensed to carry.
Right.
As
we have to wink to the audience whenever you state your own like character description, just in general conversation.
Right. But as a railroad guard, it's common knowledge that I carry a weapon, which I might need to use against certain elements attempting to steal or waylay items. I mean, elements other than myself. So I have this weapon, and it's one of the reasons I was so keen to get that overcoat back at Fenway. But I am pulling it now, and I am watching in the direction of where we came and those shadows coming on, which are just sort of visible. It's strange.
As you're watching, you start to track in your own mind the movement of these shadows. If make an intellect roll. And I'm not going to tell you, because we're at the end of the evening here. I think you can roll it on your own. I'm not going to tell you if you want to use an asset, apply some effort, or...
Go for it.
I'm just going to use an intellect defense task. It's a skill.
Okay.
So I'll use that, and I will leverage some intellect effort.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll lower it by 2 levels.
Yeah.
And I rolled a 12.
There are 3 shadows clearly coming after you.
3.
They're coming in this direction. And when I say coming after you, they appear to be your kind of your nose and your ears and your eyes and even the way the air tastes tonight. You know that they're coming after you. These 3 shadows.
I'm going to just hollow over my shoulder because I feel a brethren kindred spirit to these guys that I've lately met. There's 3 coming. It's not just that Popinjay.
So you hear that where you are, Dietrich, and so do the boy and Cloudy. And Cloudy's head just pivots as if on a ball bearing immediately, and his eyes lock on something, something, and something else. 3 things in the shadows down the street. And then he looks at the boy. Quickly, quickly, which one is it? Please make your choice quickly. And the boy just points. The library! And he starts to dart towards the library. And then Cloudy, without even looking at you, Dietrich, just stands up and starts running after the boy, his head looking back again as if it were pivoting on a ball bearing, just watching out for whatever it might be that's pursuing them.
With the very last dregs of my eagle's eye and whatever lingering effects of
Last
this,
little bit.
I'm milking it. I'm milking it.
Let's
Last dregs of this
blood
super
from a
magic
stone
powder.
comes to mind. Mhm.
Now that they're close, are these shadows or what is it? What can I see that is coming at us?
What you see, make a d20 roll for me.
17.
Nice, I like this. It just gives me another excuse to give you a good description. First of all, you immediately identify the movement and the silhouette of one Harold Coatsworth III, who seems to be in the lead. And behind him are 2 other humanoid, humanesque, human-shaped creatures, which are following after him. And though you cannot hear what it is that he's saying, you can see by his body language, by his movements, by his gestures, that he's giving them orders of some sort. You go this way, you go that way. And you can imagine in your head what he may or may not be saying to them. And they stop every so often as if they know that you're looking out after them.
And they're in the square or moving?
I'm going to say they're about 20 to 30 seconds out right now. They're getting closer.
All right. I start jogging out to try and get up towards the kid. And as I do, I want to do the hedge magic again in the form of 2 auto headlights on a perfect intersection course with how Coatsworth is moving.
Ah, nice.
With an accompanying noise. I made that noise earlier, perhaps. Awooga.
Awooga.
But anyway, yeah, so I'm rushing towards the kid and I'm going to call out, "It's Coatsworth," and then try and make it appear as if he's about to like intersect and crash with this car or get run over.
Go ahead and make your D20 roll.
Son of a, it's a 2. I'm going to use
Spend
an
an XP.
Yeah,
Go
to
ahead.
reroll.
Absolutely.
One XP, get a 3. That was worth it.
As these 3 shadows are darting to and fro down the road, all the 3 rest of you are startled by a vehicle which comes out of nowhere. It actually comes out of Copley Square, which doesn't make any sense because there's no road. It bounces a few times on the curb. The headlights go up and down, and you hear "Awooga! Awooga!" The lights flash a few times, and it actually barrels forward toward Frank, who needs to make
Bloody
a
Massachusetts
dodge
drivers.
roll.
We're from Connecticut, so yeah, there's some
That's true.
some bad blood there.
I rolled a 16.
You manage to jump right out of the way as this vehicle that seemed so real for just a moment fades out of existence and disappears in a cloud of vapor that leaves a trail of headlights and an echo. Awooga, awooga, awooga. And then the shadows, however, that have been darting back and forth do freeze and remain where they are, and you seem to have at least bought yourself some time. So at this point, the boy is heading up towards...
I am staying right with him.
You're staying with him, and they are starting to
Yep.
go up the steps of the Boston Public Library, hobbling up, and he's ushering the boy along, and he looks behind him every so often to make sure, and he sees the vehicle as it barrels through Copley Square. That makes no sense at all, and yet it happens, and he moves forward towards the immense doors where the library opens up, and he suddenly realizes he has no key.
No problem.
No way
I have lockpicks.
of entering. Oh, do you?
I do.
Hold on for just
I
a
do.
moment. I want to check in with Z, who witnesses Frank as he dives out of the way of this vehicle that suddenly disappears. Are you up to anything at this point?
No, my mind now is thinking that these shadows are after the kid, and so I'm gonna follow up the steps, and so the door's locked, right?
The door is locked at this point, unfortunately. Great wooden doors.
So I do have another cipher.
I like
That's a strength enhancer.
Mm-hmm.
I'll
now
have to look up. Yeah, go ahead.
It's all right. Just tell me what page is on, but tell me how it manifests itself.
Well, I see it in a sense, in this case, as basically an adrenaline rush, and not quite knowing why or how, but and unfortunately, my tablet doesn't have internet either. The home internet is shot,
right.
so I don't have the page number.
Nope, no problem.
Well, it's 1918,
398.
internet.
Strength enhancer.
Yeah, right.
All non-combat tasks involving raw strength, which is what you would be doing with a door.
Sure.
Such as breaking down a door.
There you go.
Are eased by 2 steps for 1 hour.
Okay.
I like it.
So I'll expend. I'll use the cipher, which like I said, I'm seeing it as an adrenaline rush.
Okay.
I'll expend 3 for my might pool.
So that now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to because I'm with you on this, I'm going to raise the number of fingers that you're easing the task, but I'm not going to tell you the difficulty of it. So you've eased the task by 3, because 2.
And then I want to see if there's any kind of brick or crowbar, or I mean, I don't know if that there'd be a crowbar, necessarily, but anything on the steps that I can just use to basically slam into the lock and just kind of shove the door open.
Looking around at the cobblestone street, this is 1918, remember, there is a stone loose, which would ease the task by 4 steps. So if you want to go ahead and make your roll.
Sure thing. That would be a 9.
Well, you'll have to tell me what your reaction is, but that you managed to smash solidly the brass handle of the door, knocking it loose and splintering some of the wood so that the clasp where the 2 doors come together that make up the entrance for the Boston Public Library are knocked and splintered. And now, it seems with a little bit of work and and effort in the general sense, not in the cipher sense, you could probably you manage to clear out those splinters, dig your hands in there, and the door creaks slowly open. But before you can actually say anything, the boy just zips right past you into the library.
Into the library.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll say, Z, that was amazing. But in the future, I've got lockpicks.
Oh.
You don't need to break it down.
And you can also do an assist, and you could have lowered it by one more, but that's all right. That's fine.
Why?
You
There's
gotta
like
roll
shadows
back.
barreling down at us, right? Like
Yeah.
like I'm
They
imagining
seem to
that
have
these are like
momentarily frozen. So let's go back to, so you make your way into the library, which is dark, and you start feeling around for a switch. But let's go back to Vesper, who's in that alleyway, or have you emerged yet?
I was running out as I was doing that last action to try and catch up with the kid, and get towards the library.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so as you begin to run out, you turn away from them, and you sort of feel this tingle down your spine. The idea of turning away from something that's attacking you doesn't make you feel great. But you begin to run as fast as you can, and you manage to close the distance and catch up. Just as you start to go up the steps, you're shocked by the image of a priest with a brick as he smashes in the handle of the doorway. And I'm not sure whether that restores your faith in religion, or if it dashes your faith in religion. But it does affect you in some way. And you are just privy to seeing the young boy as he disappears into the library. And now, Frank, I know you've dropped out for a moment, but basically at this point, the priest has broken down the door. Vesper has hightailed it up to the library, where he has met up with Dietrich, and Cloudy, and the boy. And the boy has disappeared into the library looking for something. You have drawn your 1917 weapon. Are you going after them to catch up, or are you... Same thing. I'm going to say that you're running alongside Vesper. When you see Vesper turn and run, you know it's time to turn and run. But now that he's told you where those bad guys are and what direction they're in, you kind of have an idea of where they may be. And you start to run across Copley Square toward the Boston Public Library, up those stairs, and now the boy has just gone inside. And it's just the four of you along with Cloudy. And Cloudy just shrugs. Well, looks like we should follow.
Yeah, I'm going in after him.
Yeah.
You going into Vesper?
Oh.
So you enter, and looking around, it's dark for a moment, and you can hear the boy as he's calling out. I think it's this way. I think it's down here. It's over here. Maybe it's... No, wait. Oh, I think it's over there. And then you start to see lights flicker on. And you hear the click, 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 as the boy seems to have found a light source somewhere, and lights start clicking on. And what you realize is that he's kind of indiscriminately flicking on the lights through all the library, illuminating this grand room with books and shelves and stacks and stacks of materials going off in every direction. And he's entered one of the main rooms, the main hall of the library. He's taken you back in full circle, actually, to that place where you, Vesper, and you, Z, first met.
I call out, boy, we know this library. What do you seek?
he stops for a moment and he looks around. A stairwell. I'm looking for a stairwell down. It's got to be down here somewhere. Where's a stairwell? This isn't like the library back home. This isn't like the library back in Tremontaine.
Do I know of a down to the basement stacks?
You kind of tell me, and you too, Z. How often do you two frequent this library? I'm going to assume, Frank, it's safe to say that you are not often in a library. Dietrich, as a recent transplant from New York, I'm going to say you probably don't frequent this library, too often. How well does Z and Vesper know?
I think I know it pretty well from my studies.
So why don't you both give me intellect rolls and tell me if you want to apply any effort or if you want to use an asset or...
Yeah, I feel the pressure of the situation, so I at least want to expend some effort.
Yeah, I'll do the same. I don't think of any asset that I have, but I'll definitely use some effort.
Sure. Go ahead and give me 2 intellect rolls.
12.
11.
Vesper, you're sure if you head to the back, go off to the right, there's what looks like at first just a maintenance closet, but you've kind of seen before. There's actually it's kind of a secret stairwell that's just used for people that work there in the library.
I start jogging and just without fanfare this way. Call to the boy.
He just runs after you, and so the two of them just head off in that direction. And again, Cloudy just kind of shrugs and he's like, "Follow the boy," and he goes running
I'm
after.
staying right with the boy.
So, can I assume that Z and Frank are doing the same thing?
Yeah.
All lights on in the library?
Yep.
I'm going to keep an eye behind us, too.
Okay. You're going to kind of go slowly and sort of be like tail end Charlie here and...
Really don't have a choice. I can't run that fast.
Okay.
So I like to take the backside.
Staying on your guard?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? I'm actually going to employ, while moving backwards to follow these guys, I'm going to use my Overwatch ability, which I'll use an intellect pool to execute it, but it's using a ranged weapon to target a limited area and make an attack against the next visible target. So it's like a weight, but it negates any benefits they might have.
Right. It negates any abilities they may have. Okay, cool. And so I assume, just to kind of describe where we are right now, in the main hall, there is kind of like a bottleneck towards the front end of the Boston Public Library, like where everybody enters. And can I presume, and I don't want to say too much here, but can I presume that that's the area that you're watching because that's the door that's hanging open because you guys didn't mention that you had closed it or anything like that, and you think that they're going to come through?
That's the direct way. That's
right.
The only way linearly I can think. So that's where they're coming. If there's a threat, that's what I'm watching.
So you keep your eye on that, and Vesper, you and the young boy disappear through that doorway, and you're hit instantly by a musty smell, a smell from, it seems like a few years ago. And as you traverse the stairs, the boy just automatically flips a light switch, and a buzzing, crackling light bulb goes on above you. But you can see that further light bulbs lighting up in a curve, which is kind of strange. It's not really the typical sort of Boston basement stairwell that you're used to seeing. You're used to seeing just straight stairs going down, but this actually curves, and it goes downward into, you presume, the basement. You're just going to barrel forward and continue?
Yeah.
And I assume that Dietrich and Z are following afterward?
Yep.
Yep.
moving after them. You disappear into that door as well. And Frank, are you going to stay at the door? Or are you going to watch? I mean, are you going to enter the basement, or are you going to watch the front door?
I'm gonna back into the basement portal that way they've gone into. It's feels a little bit more defensible, so that's where I'm gonna just set up. I don't feel like hobbling down the stairs at the moment.
As you are backing into the stairwell, you see a flash of 3 shadows. Vroom, vroom, vroom.
That's through the main doorway?
Through the main doorway, down the hall, entering into the main room of the library. And
that's when I holler down, the 3 shadows are in, and I'm not entirely sure I can do anything with them.
And you hear that, Vesper, all the way down at the beginning as you enter into what looks to be. And when you first entered, you could smell 1 or 2 years ago. The air was kind of that stale. But as you descend the steps, the air smells and tastes older and older and older until you finally reach the bottom. And judging by the smell, this air is at least 60, 70 something years old. And you look out into a basement level. Something you've never seen or heard of before. Never knew it was there. The boy flicks a switch, and a long room is illuminated, filled with stacks and stacks and stacks of books and manuscripts, collections, the likes of which you've never seen. And coming up behind you are Dietrich, Z, and Cloudy, who limp their way down and almost push you out into it. And Cloudy looks around. My God, I didn't know this was here. But the boy starts darting out between the stacks. It's this way. It's this way.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay with him.
Yeah, I barked to stay with him, and I turned because I wanted to keep with the boy, but I'm worried about what's happening up with Murphy up top.
And back to you, Frank, Murphy. Those 3 shadows begin to resolve themselves. And what you see are shadows that you thought were a doorway slowly begin to slide down a doorway. A shadow that you thought was on the ceiling begins to slide down the wall, make its way across a table, ripple across some books that were not put away, ripple across the floor, and a final shadow, one that looked like it was the night, slides slowly like a black oil along the ground, along the floor, and begins to reform itself. And when it reforms, it is our dear friend, Harold Coatsworth, as he looks up at you, smiling. He reaches out with a single finger, and now that tut, tut, tut is aimed in your direction, except he doesn't say anything, but he simply points directly at you, while those 2 shadows behind him, rise up out of the ground, forming 2 human-ish looking creatures with skin that seems to hang off of skeletons. Skin like crepe paper. And they both raise their hands at you. And their hands have 2 mouths, one on each, that begin to bark like dogs.
Weird.
And with that, we've reached the end of episode 2.
Wild.
Right on.
All right.
Fantastic.
All right, gentlemen. To those of you that are actually watching at home, I do apologize for all the technical errors that we had at the beginning of the night. I hope with each session, with each live stream, to get a little bit better and a little bit more polished. But thank you very much for sticking with us. Thank you for watching and listening along. From all of us here, from me in Boston, and from all of my buddies, I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching. Have a very good night, and we will see you all next week, next Wednesday, 8 p.m. to about 11 p.m. here on the FiERCE BRooD.